Today we're going to have a quick how-to video. I would love to post another video this week of the Sweet 16, specifically of the hot heap you see here, but unfortunately I'm waiting on some wheels. So instead we're going to post another wheel swap video. There are a ton of these videos out there. I have a few of them myself, but I always like to find new and improved ways of doing wheel swaps, whether it be easier or making them look better. Today's victim is going to be this 1970 Toyota Celica. We're going to start off by removing the base from the body of the car. This is a plastic base, so instead of drilling it, we're going to use a soldering gun. If you're using this method, make sure you have your soldering gun up to temperature. And go ahead and place the soldering iron on the post of the actual body, not the plastic. Go ahead and hold it there for as long as it takes. Now, I like to use a small screwdriver, place it in between the body and the base, and you should see the base start to move independent of the body. Once it does so, you can pull it on up. Now that the body is removed from the base, we need to remove these wheels and axles. You could cut the axles in half, but you're going to want to cut these tabs off because we need to eventually. We're going to take a pair of side cuts and just simply cut those tabs. And once we cut one, they just pop right on out. We'll go ahead and finish cutting the others. Now, you will need a few items before you actually perform the swap. The first thing is a set of 16th inch tubing, which here is K&S aluminum tubing. You can get this at Hobby Lobby or Amazon, and I'll be sure to post links for that. Or you can get some 16th inch brass tubing. They may also make steel, I'm not entirely sure, but keep in mind these are soft tubes. The aluminum is going to be a little bit softer than the brass. So we're going to use the brass in this case. The first thing you're going to notice is the original axle is quite a bit thinner than the 16th inch brass tube. So the first thing we need to do is to expand out the slot where our original axle went. You can use an X-Acto. We're going to use a small file and just file away until we have the proper fit. And that appears to be about perfect. The size we need. Now, it's okay if these are a little undersized. We essentially want them flush with the base of the car. But if you undersize them a bit, in this case, that will be just fine. We'll go ahead and mark it with our side cuts. Just put a little tiny mark on there. You could also cut this with an X-Acto, rolling it back and forth, but I prefer this little tubing cutter made by K&S. We'll go ahead and get it where we need it. And eventually it pops out. And we end up with a non-crimped hole. Now, once we have the tubes cut, we're going to go ahead and place them in the slots. And another cool thing about using these tubes, if you wanted to stagger the stance of the car, you could simply cut the rear tube longer, that way giving you a staggered stance. Use some of our glue and glue these in place. We are just going to let them sit. We can certainly use some baking soda to speed up the process, but I'm really in no rush. Once you've given the tubes enough time to dry, this is what they should look like. Now, I'm going to be using a set of monoblock wheels for this particular casting. Now, they do come with some brass rod, but it bends very easily. It's very thin. And the reason why I prefer this axle swap procedure is not because it's the easiest. It's certainly not. This actually takes more time than most axle swaps. But in the end, I think the result is the best looking. Now, the next item we're going to need are these head pins. They're made by Jewelry Shop. I actually purchased them from Hobby Lobby. I will list an Amazon link below if I can find them there. What you get, a bag of 120. We'll have a closer look at one of these. Essentially, they look like tiny nails. Now, they are certainly too long, so the first thing we're going to do is snip them down to size. And it doesn't really matter, just as long as they're not too long, interfere with one another. So we'll cut it off, and that's what we're left with. Now we're going to take one of the wheels and put the pin in the center. And as you can see, the end result is very factory looking. There's no crimp tubes, there's no crimp at the end. It looks like a factory Hot Wheels or Matchbox axle. Now we can take a toothpick and apply some of the super glue on the inside of the tube. Now we'll take our wheel with the new end installed and simply put it into place and give that time to dry. We'll go ahead and finish off the remaining wheels. Now if you're doing a wheel swap with a donor car and you already have a set of Hot Wheels axles, or you want to use a set of Hot Wheels axles because they retain that factory look, you can also use this method. Let's say the axle's too long or you want to swap the wheels. Go ahead and cut the axle in half. Cut the axle to the appropriate size. Go ahead and use some of the brass tubing. Now keep in mind this will be a fairly tight fit. Cut the brass tubing to size and then join the two axles together. That way you're still using the original end pins from the Hot Wheels axle and most of the Hot Wheels axle, but you've got this brass section in the center holding them together, and it will still spin nice and free. Now this video is really not going to be about reinstalling this plastic base, but I did want to go over it. You can reinstall it in a couple of ways without drilling and tapping. You could heat up the post once again and then try to slide the base back onto the casting, which is one method. Or for me, the preferred method would be to drill out the base a little bit. And that's actually the perfect size. So this is not going to come apart with being on display or even rolling it around. Now, if you were going to give it to a kid, you would want to actually apply some glue to the post. That way it doesn't come apart. To get the right size drill bit, just simply size it up with the post. More than likely, it's going to be a 3/16 inch drill bit. That is the perfect size. It allows you to kind of snap it into place when it's not going to fall apart. Here's a closer look at the pins. You can see it gives it that finished look. There's no crimping, nothing weird going on. It just looks factory. At least Hot Wheels factory, that is. And I've tried this on several different wheels. The monoblock, standard Hot Wheels, Retro Entertainments, all the Hot Wheels wheels will work with this method, and most of the newer style Matchbox. I know there's probably 100 different ways to do wheel swaps. I think last year I had a video where I showed you how to just simply crimp brass tubing. You can also use crimp tubes. You can use beads. You can reuse Hot Wheels axles. The sky's the limit. Whatever you can come up with, you'll find a way to do it. But for me, I like this method, not for the time spent, because it is somewhat time consuming compared to like a crimped axle, but I really like the end result. It's really hard to tell you did an axle swap at all. Be sure to check out the Amazon links below the video. I have an Amazon link to my entire page, which directs you to Amazon, shows you all the tools we use. I will also try to link those pins for the axles as well as the tubes, if they are available on Amazon. Otherwise, you can get them at your local Hobby Lobby. The pins run $2.99, but I think typically they are on sale. Plus, Hobby Lobby always has a 40% off coupon. And the tubes run $3.99. Those are usually not on sale, so you want to use the 40% coupon with those. I'd like to take this time to thank my top patrons, which are Corbin Toll and Mark Kitt. I'd like to thank everyone who subscribes and supports the channel. And if you have any questions or comments, be sure to post those below. And as always, thanks for watching. Now we're going to take one of the wheels and put the pin, it's easier said than done,